So I've spent some time pushing the difference in contrast a little further. I'm going to show you a difference between an original render. This was a little too flat, although it looks like it looks realistic, but it's my artistic choice to push the areas of light and dark into where I want it to be. So this was a pass on a darker exposure being erased and painting with light, and this is a pass of bringing up the curves a little higher using the mask as well. And I may also spend some time later adjusting it. But what I wanted to show for now is another technique that I use to help bring everything together closer. Is I will use a metal texture like this. It needs to be of the opposite color of whatever the render image is, and use the divide layer to turn everything blue. Drop it to like 10% maybe. When it's barely visible, like what I'm going here for is a slight variation in hue and saturation across the image. So once we have that, we can either go and erase stuff by hand and just have more control over areas that are obviously popping in too much. Kind of like this. As long as it brings in something, like on a very, very subtle level. Just not so much. And then, I mean, the same thing I will apply to make the texture of the pelican case a little bit more interesting. But in this case, I need a good resolution, so I'm not going to stretch it out across the image. Same divide, same dropping it a little more. I just basically want this pelican case to have more areas of interest, and it's not worth spending time doing that in texturing in KeyShot. As long as you follow some sort of a rule for yourself that you set, that like, what are you trying to say with this? What are you trying to achieve? I mean, this I've been doing this for years, using this divide layer technique, and it's not like usually for illustrations, like rarely for the concept, but it really helps change the look of the metal, and you can barely tell what's going on, but it definitely looks different. Let's see. It gives this, like, it gives metal some sort of a burnt look, and some the light playing, you know, in it and stuff like that is just makes it a little extra special. Let's see, maybe we can try another one. I want to see if doing this will help make the logo more interesting on the case. But I just wanted to point out that this usually works for metal, not so much for other stuff, but definitely for metal. And of course you can spend a lot of time. I don't quite like what's happening on the logo, so maybe like this. You can spend a lot of time adding all these little touches. I would say a good rule is that they shouldn't be more than 10 to 15% of a change to what you have already done. It's just, it's a little touch, you know. I don't feel like it should necessarily fundamentally change the image. It should only help you say a little more with it. And so it's stuff like this, you know, and I will at some point blend everything together and just get rid of some of the blemishes more where they're like too obvious. Stuff like this. That should definitely not be on the gun. But it really helps overall. Like it gives everything the same level of detail. And some other things that I will do is this trick that my friend Tom Paul showed me once, color lookup. It's basically like filters in Instagram that just help you add that final touch. The one that I usually use is Foggy Night, used on Leiden, and only give it about, you know, see, like if you take it too far, it's stylized, but it's almost a little too much. So just to get rid of the darks, I will add about like 10-15%. And then of course you can go with more color correction and things that will help you bring out the green in the plastic, or tone down the blues. I feel like black and blue is like a metal type of thing, so it really helps you sell the material look, which is what I'm going for with this. I mean, I consider this a concept, but also an illustration. So this is about as much as I do in Photoshop, just getting rid of the seams and textures, little things that I didn't like in the rendering, but I don't care for, like remodeling, for example, and stuff like that. Finally, in this part, I just wanted to say that I did render 2 other images, and I'm gonna show them right here. Oops, I don't know why that's black and white. Mode RGB. There you go. So I rendered this. Just this is probably going to be the illustration that I'm going to be posting, because I mean, both just like additional pieces, but this was the way I developed the shaders and textures specifically for white background, and this is how I intended to show it, and I think it should stay that way. So, and I also have a close-up like this. So other than some weird seams and stuff like this, some stretching, some areas here and there, once I take those out with a clone stamp or something like that, I will consider this to be done, and this would be a good example of just a good hard surface model with decent presentation. So we only have one last part left for this whole tutorial. I'm just gonna tell you my final thoughts on this whole thing.